AIA Econ. I hope life is good on your end. And today's class is a term I didn't expect anybody walking into the room to know or understand, called the Malthusian trap, named after a guy named Thomas Malthus. I think supply and demand was a little more easy to understand. But what I hope you got from today is you applied what you learned about graphs yesterday into another area. And two, thinking about the role population plays in economies. And this Thomas Malthus, he lived a long time ago, passed away in 1834. He was an English scholar. He had views on economics. Now, this term here, demographic, demos from the Greek people, graphic is expression, so expression of people. He was a pessimistic guy. He said, we only have so much land, so many resources, and if we have too many people, it's going to be a catastrophe, a famine, a war, epidemic. So his viewpoints were not positive, but I want to remind you, he lived a long time ago. He lived before a lot of modern technology and medical care and that kind of thing. And I say that so put a little seed in your brain whether his viewpoints, hold true today. I'll leave that up to you. And there were three main points I hope you got. And if you missed class, these are the three main points we went over in class. I want you to understand Thomas Malthus's key assumptions about population, resources, and living standards. Again, he was a pessimistic guy. He felt that we were essentially going to outbreed ourselves in enough time and that things were going to get worse. Not an optimistic guy, a pessimistic guy. Now, the second main point, identify why living standards remain near subsistence for centuries. Now, subsistence is a word I don't think a lot of you know. Subsistence means you can just survive. You're not getting anything extra, but you're not starving to death. It's similar to equilibrium, right? Where it's just I have enough resources to eat and survive, but I have nothing extra. And for a long time, people did live near subsistence, but think about why. Again, going back to that clue earlier, the lack of modern technology and medical care and the way governments were structured, all that sort of thing. Third main point, discuss how economies eventually escape this trap through technological change and fertility controls. So nowadays, if you choose, you can choose the number of children you have or none at all. That really wasn't an option back in his day. And the things that keep us alive and healthy, the things that give us the longest life expectancy in human history, it really is based on technology. So those are the three main points of the day. And there's four related ideas that go along with it. So the rate of demographic growth, again, demos people expression. So there's essentially a math problem, and it's the birth rate per 1,000 with the mortality or the death rate. Logically, if you have more births than deaths, populations go up. If you have more deaths than birth, it goes the other way. And they call that an RDG, rate of demographic growth. It changes over time and it changes by places in the world. India has a different RDG than America, and America has a different one than Kenya, and Kenya has a different one than Russia. You can look at different countries, different parts of the world, so it changes. The other related idea is diminishing labor returns. Adding more workers to fixed land eventually lowers average output per worker. And if you don't get that, if you have a lot of people who want a job, or you live in a population like China or in India that has four people compared to every one American, there may be so many people you can pay them less. And if you think about where the sweatshops are in the world, that might give you a little idea. So many people, huge populations, they'll take what they give you if you get that. Now, the third related idea would be positive or repressive checks. Famines, wars, epidemics raise the mortality or the death rate when population outpaces resources. And these things have happened throughout history to keep populations in check until fairly recently, where populations are shooting through the roof. And then preventative checks, delaying marriages, fertility control, social norms, it's like two kids are acceptable, that kind of thing. So that's more what's happening today. Okay, so we talked about all four of these things in relation to the story. And I asked an opening survey question. If everything works out exactly how you want it to, I hope it does for all of you, how many children are you going to have? And the reason I asked that, I wanted to see just in our room what we were doing to the population. Were we lowering it? Were we keeping it stable? Were we raising it? Yeah, I didn't want to delve into your personal life just to delve into your personal life because there is a reason why. So I screenshotted this as I made this, and at the time I did the 8.2 billion people and the births today, the deaths today, how many people were put into the world today, how many births this year, and we're going to look at that in class. So if you missed class, check out this link and see this, and you can look at different countries and that sort of thing. So we, we explored that to see what was all about. And I guess the big question is, what's the magic number where we go too far? And then there were 5 tables and graphs I asked you to analyze this table: Malthusian versus demographic transition. Demographic transition would be the modern world. And you can see, in Malthus's time, it was quite different. And for the sake of time, I want you to analyze this. What does this mean? So Malthusian era, couple hundred years ago. Demographic transition phase is kind of the eggheady way of saying today. What are the differences, excuse me, between these eras in these criteria? And the second question was, analyze the meaning of this chart. It's nicknamed the Malthusian hockey stick. And on the x-axis is the year. And on the y-axis is gross domestic product, how much money people are making. And as you can see, he died in 1834 here, right before it shot up. And I posed the question, why is GDP so much higher the last 200 years? What happened to do that? We're living better if you follow that. And question 3, um, this is what Malthus based his ideas upon. He based it upon these 2 charts. Now, do you feel it's correct, and why? Now, the visual on the right is a visual of the Malthusian trap. So here's what Malthus said. Food supply is going to stay fairly steady, population is going to go up, and it's going to get really ugly. In fact, it's a trap. So as we hit that equilibrium mark and we go too high, something bad's going to happen to knock us back down. So do you think that's true or not? What can change both of these lines? Okay, we can't change time. The x-axis is going to stay the same, but these lines can change. And question 4, how does this graph express what happens with population growth? Now, this one here has more of a positive spin. So, technology gets better, we get a higher equilibrium, the level of subsistence goes up, and the average output. And even when population rises, when we get back to our new equilibrium, it's higher than what it was. So, this is a more positive outlook than the ones we saw in the prior slide. And then question 5, interpret this graph. So this is a toughie. This is a toughie. And we have some words, subsistence and equilibrium, new words to us. And there's a couple different possibilities here. Okay, so I asked you to interpret this. Okay, the first scenario, the second scenario, and to get us used to interpreting graphs and charts. That is very important in economics. And when the time comes, you get tested on it in my class or standardized tests. There's a lot of those, so might as well start repping them out early on. Okay, so to wrap things up, Malthus's ideas are controversial and have been debated for the last 200 years plus. At the core of the idea is that economies are driven by population. Like we learned about equilibrium yesterday, human population has an equilibrium as well, this optimal intersection of the kind of just baby bear's porridge, just right. As well, that is optimal. What that equilibrium is subject to, or what that equilibrium is subject to debate. Also, I hope you got to apply what you learned yesterday about the graphs to this other area of study. These graphs do not go away. Okay, so that is the story of Malthus and the Malthusian trap. I understand it's new in the year, so if you are struggling with these, please ask me or email me, and I will do the best I can to explain them. All right, take good care of yourselves.